Come on.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die.
Warning, this podcast contains explicit language and spoilers. This is Behind the Iron Throne, your unofficial Game of Thrones cast.
Hello, welcome back to Behind the Iron Throne. Hashtag beat it. Woo! Want to welcome all of our thronies to the show, and of course we are live. It's a very special bonus episode. We have some really awesome guests with us, but we just want to remind everybody real quick to connect with us on our website at BehindTheIronThrone.com, where you can find all the links to all of the fun stuff that we do for our hashtag thronies. We love you guys so much. So we have a very special episode tonight. Hopefully you read, if you're watching live, you read the description. We have the History of Westeros Podcast right here with us tonight. But before we introduce these amazing people, I have to introduce a very special person in my life. She is the bionic dragon in a world of mysteries. Ladies and gentlemen, I would love to welcome Trin, the amazing, to the podcast. Trin, thank you so much for being here, my Dovahkiin.
Thank you, and I'm really sorry for everybody who was listening on Sunday. I wasn't able to be with you guys. I was on another special mission, had to take care of business and help save the world. But I'm back, and I'm excited to be here with my good friends, which we're about to introduce. I'm really excited about this because I've actually got to hang out with them in person a few times. So without further ado, here we go. We have the lovely and talented Ashaya. The first time I ever met you, I've only talked to you for 5 minutes, and already I'm impressed. And I love the hat. It's awesome. Although I think it should be a lion, really.
Yeah, I need to get one for every house.
Now that's a good answer. Ashaya, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the podcast. I'm really excited to talk to you some more. And of course, we have Aziz. Welcome, Aziz, who has a great announcer voice. I think you and I are kindred spirits. We're both announcers, so we sound phenomenal together. It's going to be amazing.
Yes, thank you. Great to be here, and I love being part of this community because there's so many fun people we get to chat with on a regular basis about something that we're all very much obsessed with, and that works out well.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say, thanks to Trin has opened my eyes. But when I first started podcasting, I didn't listen to a lot of other Game of Thrones shows because I was afraid that I was going to accidentally copy other people's content, and I didn't want to come across the community as that guy, that guy, he's stealing our content. So I never really listened to other podcasts. Trin finally talked me into, broadening my horizon, and I listened to your guys' podcast, and I was absolutely blown away. I loved it. I listened to 5 episodes in a row. The book, the story to book, or the book to story, just phenomenal. And it's a shame that Sean wasn't able to make it tonight. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, he's got a lot of work hours to put in around talking Game of Thrones. So most of our recording schedule, actually, well, not most, but a lot of our recording schedule is based around his work schedule. So, but we get him in there enough, and that's good.
That's awesome. So much love to your co-partner there. Definitely awesome. Trin, do you want to lead off with a couple of questions here? We can start out with...
Yes. So I've actually had the pleasure of talking to Ashaya and Aziz a few times in the past, but we're going to go over some things we probably have talked about before. And first of all, we want to ask you guys, what was the reason that you wanted to start the History of Westeros podcast?
It's funny because we both sort of fell into it. Aziz was invited to do a call-in show on TalkShoe with our previous co-host, Steve, and eventually Steve was like, yeah, let's just do this together. And I was dating Aziz, and so I would be on the episodes sometimes, but once Steve had to phase out podcasting out of his life, he couldn't do it anymore. Aziz didn't want to do it alone, so I was like, yeah, I'll do it with you. This sounds fun. I've been around for a lot of this process since the beginning. So we both just fell into it.
Yeah, it was definitely very much unplanned, but we've continued to enjoy making our show better over the years. And it's been 5 years now, basically a rough give or take a few months. I'd have to actually sit down and figure that out. But yeah, so we just have constantly tried to improve, and over time it just became, a part of the landscape for us. We were just always podcasting, and now we do it full time.
Nice. Do you guys do any other shows, or have you thought about doing any other shows?
Yeah, we have another podcast that we started probably in December, so maybe 8 months ago, but we're not podcasting right now because of Game of Thrones season. It's called Fandom Media. That's like the word fandom mashed with the word media. Mm-hmm. And we just cover TV shows, some movies sometimes. Like we'll cover The Last Jedi when it comes out, Star Wars stuff. Yes. But we cover like Better Call Saul, Black Sails, Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Nice. So shows that we love, basically. It's the same three of us as well. Sean is with us as well, but we don't do video. That's the one difference, is just to make it simpler and cut down on the production, since it's a secondary podcast and we don't have time to do two full productions like that.
Right.
But it's a great way for us to talk about some of the other shows we like, and maybe build a different audience over the long term. And we want to start some other things too. We want to do some gaming live stream stuff, but we're not sure if we want to launch that on the History of Westeros channel or start a new channel. So we might have a new show coming out.
Like video gaming? Because you piqued my interest right now.
Specifically, we play a lot of Game of Thrones mods for games. So like Crusader Kings 2, Game of Thrones, or Mountain Blade Warband, the Game of Thrones mod. There's just, and maybe other games, but those two games in particular, we play so often that it seems like we're missing out by not streaming it. Now, especially now that we're set up to do more live streaming. It's pretty incredible that you can be, you can have like a full gamer's schedule, which neither of us have, but we could, if we did, we could spend it entirely on Game of Thrones games. There's just that much of it now.
You guys have won my hearts completely, because
awesome.
some of the people following right now know that I'm a huge video gamer. I love video games. I do a podcast separately for a video game, and I love the video game community. So when you were talking about like video games, and I have to say that I think Ashaya is probably like the queen of Game of Thrones games. She actually taught me at the Ice and Fire Con the strategy game that was based on Game of Thrones. Yeah, that was true. I helped run that tournament there. Aziz was there as well. And then at Con of Thrones, Aziz and I did a Games of Ice and Fire panel that was just about the games based on Game of Thrones and Sun and Splendor.
That's awesome. You prepared PowerPoint slides, and there were like 30, weren't there? Yeah, no, there's a lot of games. There's a lot of games. It's incredible. Yeah, that includes card games, board games, and computer games of various types. Yeah, games you can get 3D printed, like the Sivos game that's in world. You can just get that printed. So there's so many amazing games that have come out of this series.
I feel like I missed so much by not being able to attend the con. Next time I'm going to have to go.
We'll be there next year.
Real quick, we got a lot of Thronies, and of course, we have fans of both our shows in the live chat. And if you're listening to the podcast in a later time, you can actually join us at facebook.com/Behind the Iron Throne, where we do our live show. Be a part of our community, and you get a notification every time we go live and do really cool stuff like this. And we have a lot of people that are both fans of both of our shows. They love you guys. You guys do have a phenomenal show. I'm very impressed with all of your work. And of course, I want to give a big shout out to our friend Kyle Foster. Whoa! From Azora Hype. We love Kyle. Kyle, isn't Kyle great? He's been an amazing friend.
Yeah. I was talking to him earlier today. In fact, he got some bad news. We got some good news and some bad news. He's gonna apparently he made plans to come down to Dragon Con, which is a convention here in Atlanta.
Where we'll be at.
Yeah. Where we'll be at. We always go because it's in our town.
We live here, yeah.
And
nice.
Lena Headey was supposed to be there on Sunday. She was scheduled to be there, and Dragon Con has never had, even though it's a huge convention, it's never really had much of a Game of Thrones presence. but she just canceled
No.
right after Kyle and I talked about it, like
Yikes.
a matter of hours later. So he's really bummed out right now. So everybody send their love to Kyle. He's bummed out.
Yeah, sorry, buddy. We still
Understandably
love you,
so.
bud.
I think he's still going to come. I think they may have already bought their tickets and all, but I would understand if he changed his mind.
Maybe. I'm hoping they'll get another Game of Thrones person to fill that hole or something.
Yeah, because he had an interview scheduled with her, apparently. That's huge, right? Getting an interview with Lena. So
Yeah.
that's a bummer to have fall through. I would be upset.
Maybe Melisandre will show up since she was scheduled for Con of Thrones and didn't go.
Yeah, more sympathy for that cancellation now, right? It's just a thing.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing they can do about it. These
Yeah,
these
they have
stars-
agents.
Yeah. In Clarice's case, it was apparently she got a new role in a movie and they had to start filming, and she couldn't just.
That's what DragonCon said. Was filming for her too. For
filming
Lena Headey.
also, yeah.
So I don't know.
You'd think it'd be something big for her. Because she also canceled Toronto Fan Expo. Apparently, she was going to that, so she canceled two cons that were right next to each other. So it would make sense that it was, if not a new movie or something, that was like a major illness or something like that. But
Yeah, too bad.
bummer either way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a shame. That would have been. Sorry, Kyle. We love you, buddy. You can always interview me. Nobody will ever watch it. They'll be like, "Who's this clown?" We don't
He's a
care.
Lena
Would you
Headey
wear a
fan.
wig?
Yeah.
Oh, he would. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
I
absolutely
would.
And a Lannister armor
Yep.
with the wig.
I love her. I gotta say, season 7 has been. I've been mind blown. I love the season so far. I feel like all of the actors have stepped up their game. I feel like the costume designs are better. The sets are great. The music is phenomenal. And especially if they keep using some of the music from season 6, which was also great music. I feel like HBO has an amazing show, and I'm going to be sad to see it end, quite honestly. I hope the spin-offs, I hope they actually do the spin-offs and it's not just, like, hey, yeah, we're going to do them, and then nothing ever happens. It just blows away in the wind.
Seems pretty likely because how much money they make off of all of it, right?
Yeah.
we have that to bank on, right?
Yeah, tons of money.
So our next question for you guys was, and I know this is a rough one. Do you prefer the show or the books, and why? And I'm gonna preface this with, I know that you guys were book fans before show fans because I've read your bios and I've talked to you guys. But currently, we know that the show is canon. So, as of right now, are you more book or show?
Book for sure for me, 100%. I mean, I definitely mix up like show and book stuff all the time, and so there's things I like more about the show, and there's things I like less about the show. So, but it's pretty solidly books for me.
Yeah, I like the books more for sure. Certainly, I was introduced to them first, like you said. Yeah, I started reading them in 2001, so a good 10 years ahead of the show. So it's pretty kind of hard for them to take the place of that. But I can, if I'm being diplomatic, I certainly like them both, and they're good in different ways. There's certain things about the show that books can't do, and vice versa. You can't tell an internal story, someone's inside their head. You can't do that on the show nearly as well. Although some of these actors do a fantastic job with the way they do their faces and everything. So they do it really well, even though it's not, you can't go as far. On the other hand, something like example I used in our episode recently, Sansa and Jon coming together, the way they put the music and the facial expressions and the acting, you can't capture that with words. So no matter how good George R.R. Martin is, he can't do that. That's just impossible. And like you said, all the scenery and the sets they've had this year are they've already been so good at that. And now they just took it a noticeably higher with the budget, and the compression of only having 7 episodes allows them to do a little more focus. So I love them both, and the show has undoubtedly brought the community to another level and brought more people to the books. So really, they're intertwined.
That's an excellent point.
But still, I say the books I prefer them, and I can't wait for the next one.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, I think we're all dying to get our hands on that next book. But a picture is worth 1,000 words, and I believe that you can tell so much by how we move in our body language than actual words as well. So seeing these actors, and that's why I feel like I agree with you, like the actors stepped up their game, because we're seeing so much more emotion. Even though people are saying, oh, Cersei looks like she's emotionless. No, you got to look at her, really see, you can feel it. Like this last episode just blew my mind. But Trent, I wonder, are you more of a book fan or a show fan? I never asked you that.
Well, I cut my teeth on the show, so I probably would say more of a show fan because I'm more of the visual arts type person. But I love that the world of Westeros or the world of Ice and Fire is a lot bigger than just the 5 books that are out. You've got the world of now I'm drawing a blank. You've got the Dunk and Egg series. You've got the
Yes.
World of Ice and Fire. No.
All that Targaryen history.
Yeah. And I've read those actually on audiobook, unfortunately, because I commute a lot. But
they have good audio.
Love the audiobooks.
Yeah, Harry Lloyd does
exactly.
a great job with those. And I was actually just talking to Chris this week about the fact that Roy Dotrice is 94 years old.
Yeah.
Is it
And-
now? Jeez.
Yeah, God bless him.
So I don't think that he'll be recording the next book, and it's probably going to fall to Harry Lloyd. I mean,
Fine.
which is great because he's a
not that
great.
Roy Dotrice isn't doing it, but
No.
Lloyd is a worthy successor.
Yes.
Yeah. Roy
absolutely.
does have some issues when he does like some of the sex scenes as a woman's voice, and he's like, "Oh, Peter," and I'm like, "Oh."
Yes. They
KK
should have a
really-
woman for
when-
all
ever
that.
They
since-
just need two people doing the
Yeah, they need
voices.
a male and a female voice actor for.
Well, I never
divide
noticed.
that up.
I never noticed that until KK brought it up, Trent, to me. Now every time I listen to the audiobooks, I hear her voice
Yeah.
when she does it. But if you guys have ever listened to the audiobook for A Wheel of Time, they have I forget their names. They have a male and a female, and they counterpart,
Oh.
and it's really good. It's just it's like 14 books, and you got to get through some that are kind of boring. But that's a
Well,
great
I've read
series.
The Wheel of Time, but I have not heard it on audio. at
Awesome.
all, so.
You get a gold star, sir. That's a gold star.
I'm older than I look. I've had time for.
If I had to guess your age, if you don't mind, I'd say you're 30.
I'm 41.
Never, no way. Until
Shut up.
you can show us ID after the podcast because I want to see proof. There's no
I
way.
know, no way.
You're older than me.
I've seen you in person multiple times. There's no way you're 41.
Because, sir, you look younger than I do. I look rough.
Oh,
he is.
I don't know if you
Oh
can
my
see that.
God.
Probably not, but I'm trying to hold
Let me
it up.
see.
Yeah, no, you're.
I'll
The
be
date
a son of a bitch.
Date of birth.
What's the secret?
1975.
Oh my God! Tell me the
What's
secret.
the secret?
I don't know. I guess Game of
rock
Thrones.
I think that's breaking news, Train. We broke that on Beat It.
I know, right?
I don't
I
think-
thought I was the oldest podcaster, but
Why am I
got me by a
aging so
couple
bad?
months.
I got to get off the gluten. I think it's the gluten.
No more gluten. I just shovel it in.
Nice.
all the time. I take gluten baths. I just soak in it.
That's awesome.
So, Aziz, what house would you belong to if you could pick any house?
Probably if I could pick. Okay, that's. See, I thought I was going to tell you guys which is my favorite. Now, if I was going to belong to it, that's a totally different question here. I think if I was going to belong to a house, I'd pick Hightower, which is different than my favorite, although Hightower is pretty far up there. Hightowers are just cool. They're rich and they have all this ancient loot and stuff and the huge tower to overlook everything, and that just sounds great.
Access to the Citadel.
Yeah, they got the Citadel. They got
Nice.
access to all these different cultures in their port. It's a port city. So, yeah, I'd go there. It's apparently the cleanest, nicest city out of the, whereas King's Landing's like a pigsty.
So it's like Zurich,
Really nice.
Switzerland. It's really clean.
Yeah,
I've heard Zurich's really clean.
and it has the fearsomely strong cider.
And Ashaya, what do you?
Let's see. Sometimes I would say Hightower, but I'm not going to say it this time because Aziz said it. But I certainly I tend towards Dornish houses because that's where I can actually be equal in society. So I would probably go with just Martell
excellent
there.
point.
But I definitely would want access to the Citadel. I'll go like Sorello Sand and go to the Citadel as well.
Nice. I'd be looking down on you.
Yeah.
Hightower,
So if you have one character that you get to pick, whether it's book or show, who would be your favorite character?
You want me to go first, or do you have one?
You can go ahead this time.
I'm still cheating. I'm saying one, but I'm saying a second shortly afterwards. That I'll choose Sansa because I think she was just my favorite character. But if I were choosing a male character, I'm choosing Sam Tarly.
Oh, that's awesome.
I can't not choose a male. I one for each gender. Okay.
I go Davos for. I didn't think of doing a male and a female. That's a good idea. I go Davos for favorite male character. For favorite female character, that's tough. It's Sansa's close, but I think I might go
Cat crossing.
Hey, kitty.
I think I might go Arya.
Nice.
It's really close between the two. They're, back early in the fandom, Arya was often considered the most favorite character by period. The most popular character. I think that's changed over time. She's still up there, but yeah.
I think Tyrion's probably my favorite character.
That's really interesting because Arya was like the little girl of the Starks, and Davos is the little girl whisperer.
Yeah.
So I think they'd really get along well because he talks to Lyanna and Shireen, and those are like his daughters. He's like the father of all the lost girls.
Yeah.
I think you just gave Davos a new title. I like that.
In the show, he loved little Lyanna Mormont.
Yeah. What's funny about Davos? I'm glad you picked him. Even though he's not, what does he say, well-learned man, he definitely makes a good speech, doesn't he? That character, he really nails it. And you got to love when he says, this is Jon Snow. He's the king of the North. Oh, and he's a bastard,
He fits in well in the Northern Court with the simplicity.
No big deal.
They're not all about that fanciness and pomp and all that. So he's like, yeah, we don't do ceremony. This is Jon Snow. We picked him to be king. That's that. I'm not even from the North, man.
For a long time, I was crossing my fingers that Davos was Azor Ahai. I was because that would be cool. Just a common man.
There's so many possibilities of who could be Azor Ahai, though. That's so many episodes. So many.
Azor Ahai series.
Yeah.
12 episodes.
Yes. All right. How about a favorite quote from you guys so far, whether it's book or show?
I think mine. Favorite? It's like a favorite quote, but it's a favorite quote because it's the one that makes me saddest always. Like I can think about it, I'm just like, I want to sob. It's Egg. I dreamed I was old, and it's from Maester Aemon, and it just like breaks my heart. I think it's like one of the most beautifully written scenes and lines, and I don't know. I love it though. That's the one that comes to mind immediately.
I think just going purely by how it felt at the time, and how surprising it was. Even though it hasn't aged as well based on how things seem to be going, it was Doran Martell in A Feast for Crows telling Arianne, just vengeance, justice, fire and blood, which they gave that line to Varys in the show. But I'm glad they still got it in there, even though they gave it to a different character. But yeah, I really like that one. I really didn't see it coming. And I remember having waited for Feast for Crows for 5 years, and it was not a disappointing book, but it was disappointing that it didn't have Tyrion and Jon and Dany and so many of the main characters. And, over time that didn't matter because of, nowadays it doesn't matter at all. There's another book and we get all those chapters, but so that was like a Daenerys moment, a Targaryen moment in a book that seemed bereft of, that we would have to wait several more years for a Targaryen chapter. So at the time it really was like, there is something. All right, I think it's connected. Oh my goodness.
Connected to that scene. I think if I were going to choose like a full paragraph, a full speech or something, I think I might choose Ilaria Sand's speech for peace from that book where she says, and on it goes, round and round till we're all dead, basically. And I love that moment.
My next pick would have also been from A Feast for Crows, and all of these have been from A Feast for Crows. So there you go. The Feast for Crows apparently is the book with the best speeches.
Well, my next question was, what's your favorite book? But you've clearly answered that.
But mine's definitely A Feast for Crows.
I think mine's The Storm of Swords because it's got all the payoff, but mostly to me, what it boils down to is all the books are really close to me in terms of quality. So it kind of just I kind of lean towards the one with the most quantity. Storm of Swords is the longest. I actually think Dance might be slightly longer, but I give the edge to Storm of Swords.
I tend towards the ones with the POVs that I most want.
Yeah.
But, so.
That makes sense, too.
Robin.
And, Dance of Dragons has too many cliffhangers, so.
Robin from our chat.
Storm.
Sorry, Aziz, I didn't mean to cut you off. Robin from our chat had a question for you guys. Besides Victarion, what is one character that you would have loved to have in the show from the books?
Does this person realize I'm wearing a Victorian
maybe
shirt
that's
right
why.
now?
Yeah, that's
Maybe
probably why.
Maybe they just
If
assume.
not, that's some serendipity,
Yeah,
some Greyjoy
very nice.
serendipity. Thank the drowned god for that.
I have my easy answer. Like, I could name off like a huge list of characters that I wanted to be in the show that I'm devastated that are in the show, but there's one that I think is just particularly egregious. It had these huge butterfly effects throughout the show for how they dealt with everything, and that's Arianne Martell, obviously. Like the Dornish plotline. Maybe they would have absolutely ruined her character, and maybe I would be regretting, having her in there. And I tell myself that, but I think it would have really improved how things, shook out with the Dornish plotline, which I don't think anyone is a big fan of that. So,
for me, it's clearly strong Belwas. There can be no other choice.
Nice.
Any other answer is wrong. No, that's a tough call. It could be, I am a Victorian fan, but I think I could definitely understand why he was cut. He's not, it's pretty easy to pass on the things he does to other characters, and it's in line with how they condense plot lines and characters like that. But if I were another one, I would maybe pick is, I certainly agree with Arianne, but to pick a different one, I would have liked to see Val.
Oh, yeah.
Val.
That might be my second choice, Val, honestly. Like, I think that would be number 2 for me. In addition to maybe, like, just the Martells in general, or Sorella Sand, or maybe there's some others, but I think Val might have gotten it.
Yeah,
She's great.
I think that, there might be more, like a more real potential for romance between Jon and her than there, whereas Daenerys eventually might be political.
I was really surprised that they didn't include Val, because I really thought that she was going to be part of the end game. So...
And I think it just made sense a lot, like, for Jon to have some sort of romantic plot line going on then. It just seemed like it made for good TV for something HBO would want to do. And instead they had Melisandre there, of course, slightly taking up some of that plot line, I think.
I heard Rose Leslie just, like, threatened to kill anyone who tried to take the role of Val. She was like, no more. He's not allowed to have any love scenes.
No more wildlings.
Yeah, no more wildling girls for him.
Yeah.
That's how wildlings are. They fight over that stuff.
True.
So it's just in line with, she's just, playing her character properly.
She's not going to enjoy this season then, because I have a feeling some chemistry's going on.
Oh, boy.
I just wanted to point out one really funny comment from one of the listeners. Actually, the one that just was gave you that question. She said that Aziz has where'd it go? Where did it go? Okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and improvise. Yes.
Yeah, that one.
You're using Mel's glamour. That was the best.
Where's the necklace? Where's it hiding?
Robin, that's brilliant. I wish I would have thought of that.
Oh.
Yeah, we have an amazing chat. If there are any other questions, we'll try to work them in.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Let's see. So I know you guys just started your Saturday theories and predictions sort of show, and that's kind of new for you guys, right?
Yeah. We used to have it at the end of. We used to kind of put it at the end of each episode and compartmentalize it so people wouldn't get spoiled. But in order to be more efficient, we're doing it this way, because this way, we only have an hour, only have a day, less than a day to prepare from Sunday to Monday's live stream. And if we set aside the future predictions, gives us more time to think about them and lets us focus on what just happened. So it just works out a lot better. And I think it's more fun for everybody else too, to have it all in one place. That way people can interact and engage with us on it.
So do you guys have like one specific theory that you've come up with, or one specific theory that you've maybe gotten off the internet that you really like or you follow completely?
Neither of us are big on coming up with theories in general. I think there's some things that maybe aren't like really big that we're both fans of the idea of, that aren't super popular. Like both the examples I can think of have to do with weirwood trees. One of them is just that Naga's bones, out in the Iron Islands that are just there. They look like they look like they could be weirwood bones that turn to stone, which would be the structure of a ship that was made using weirwood. So just the way that they're like perfectly lined up, parallel, it makes sense to me that they would be a ship. We certainly didn't originate that theory, but I think we both like it. And I think another weirwood theory that I think maybe isn't super popular, or isn't common, but we just noted that when doing our weirwood series that a lot of pretty much all the houses that have their genealogy that have certain traits that pass down over long periods of time, too long that you would imagine that they still have these striking features, have weirwood trees or seem to have something like that. So we were
and ones that don't. It's pretty interesting, the pattern. Houses that don't have a weirwood tree don't seem to have a look, with the exception of like the Targaryens and maybe like House
there's exceptions.
There's
so it's not like something we're like, we're gung-ho about, but it was striking for sure how many of the houses that had weirwood trees that had something there had their traits continue for centuries.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool. And as far as I go on that, I really like the historical mysteries. A lot of the theories that we posit for how things could have happened, that's where we have a lot of fun. As in particular, I like to present ranges of possibilities rather than theories. Like it could have been anywhere from this to this to this to this to this, without necessarily favoring any one of those options. That's part of why our episodes get really long.
Yeah, no, I like that too.
That's good.
And as far as A Song of Ice and Fire mysteries, or maybe Game of Thrones mysteries, one that I think is not unlikely to happen in the books, but almost certainly won't happen in the show, is Tyrion losing his tongue. There's some foreshadowing for it, kind of like I don't need to go into too much detail, and it's really awful to think about. But there's no way they would.
That's like Jaime losing his sword hand.
There's
You can't see my face right now, but I'm like, what? No.
It would be Euron who does it. And here's the thing.
Oh my God, that makes so much sense.
Picture this. Euron cuts out tongues. We all know that, right? That's in the books. That's no secret. Is it really possible that we're going to get through, a book or two with Euron Greyjoy and he doesn't cut a tongue or two out of a character that we really like? He's not going to be a big enough villain if he doesn't do things like that.
Think about Jaime Lannister hanging out with Ellen Payne without his tongue, that he's bonding
learning
with.
To communicate.
I don't know. There's a bunch of things. It worries me. That's a theory that I don't want to be true, but I really think a lot of stuff going for it.
There was a lot of people theorizing.
It's called, by the way, you can look it up. It's on. You can look up the Quiet Lion theory. It's what it's called. And
I am not liking this at all.
Quiet Lion.
This is too on the nose.
It existed before even the concept of it exists independent of the idea that Euron could be the one to do it. That's just one possibility. But there's other thing. One idea was that he would get grayscale from being in the water, and he was slowly turning, inside. He would lose his capacity to speak because of grayscale. That seems less likely now, but it's certainly possible. But again, this won't happen on the show. There's no way they're going to take Peter Dinklage's mouth out of the show.
Right? Yeah.
How about
we've got the comments are exploding right now about that.
Yeah, you want to hit
people
some?
Are like, oh my God, no.
Yeah, sorry everyone.
I also have a question.
It's not what I want to happen.
I have never heard that theory before. That's amazing, and it makes so much sense. That's something that George would do.
Yes,
too.
I'm not liking it, not at all.
Really, such a bittersweet ending that he keeps telling us about.
Yeah, I mean, Cersei loses her hair and her beauty or power that she thinks of. Jaime loses his hand, his fighting ability, and Tyrion would lose his ability to talk his way out. He can still write at least, though.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But his little speeches and his little witty comments and stuff, they're so good.
You can't fuck with the god of tits and wine. You can't do it. It's not right. Let me ask you guys a question real quick. It sparked an idea. There's a theory that literally drives me up the wall like a cat scratching up the curtains. Is Syrio Forel a faceless man? Is he Jaqen Nagar? And is he a vampire?
No, none of the above. I think he's just straight up dead, a dead badass, but dead.
Gold star.
That's how I feel too.
Ashaya, gold star. Aziz, you guys are getting gold stars all night.
There are secret identity things in the books, So like I see why some people tend to try to theorize about that sort of thing, but a lot of times I'm like, just think about the whatever thematic, relevance this has. Do you think this means anything really for the story? Do you think there's any greater thing, like Dario is Euron or Euron is Dario, whatever those are, Benjen and Dario and Euron being mixed up? I don't know. I don't get it, except that we do have secret identities, so it's not completely out of the blue for people to like try to. I mean, with Faceless Men, people's minds just go crazy, I think.
As someone, like I said, I'll bring up the fact that I've been in the fandom for a while. Before Dance with Dragons, before Melisandre's chapter where she just talked about glamoring and how much that worked, there was pretty much no this person is this person theory. They all, except for the occasional one, like maybe because the idea that there was a baby Aegon out there, Aegon the Sixth, that idea has been out there since the first book. But so that wasn't actually as surprising as some people thought it was. And the Gravedigger being Sandor, that idea has been out there since Feast for Crows. But all these like secret identities based on glamours, they're just a wash of these theories that came out.
Yeah, and some of them, like there was one in Dunk and Egg, like Bloodraven was using a secret identity, so like it happens. But I'm generally down on them.
Yeah, I don't think Syrio is Jaqen Hagar, but we did name our cat after him, not Syrio.
Jaqen?
Yeah,
that's cool.
The cat, Jaqen cat.
But we almost went with Syrio Pharrell.
Nice.
So they couldn't keep the same.
He is black
like
and
a
white.
feral cat.
Very clever.
Yeah.
I actually got a feral kitten, and I got twins.
We had one, yeah. One of our kittens was from the Feral Cat Society here.
Yeah.
And she's skittish around most people besides us, but she's sweet. Her name is Koja Mew from, Kojimo, Sam's Summer Islander friend.
Yeah, that's awesome. If you all these theories, I can't even. Thank God we have Andre on our team. Andre is such an awesome part of our team. I can't see these theories. I am the kind of guy, I look at it, I enjoy it, but I have a hard time seeing deeper and seeing all the mysteries unfold before my eyes. I'm not a detective. And if it weren't for Andrea, I wouldn't know half the shit I do. So I want to big shout out to Andrea. Thank you so much for educating me and helping me out, because I look at some of these theories like I make a prediction. It's wrong. If you wanted to bet and win, just bet against me, and you'll win every time. If I say, "Oh, Sandor's not coming back," no way. No, they're not bringing the Gravedigger back. There's no room. Boom, he's back. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me with that shit? I just
We
can't
have
get it right.
our Unsullied co-host that we talked about for a minute, Sean, and he was Unsullied because he hadn't read the books. He's only read like the first book and a half, but he was also Unsullied because he was not really part of the internet culture of seeing what people are tweeting about, what people are posting on Facebook or articles or anything like that. But now he's on Twitter, so he's seeing this stuff, and so he's really not. He's very sullied now because he's told us about how he has like some idea in his head, and then he looks it up. He looks at Twitter, and there's hundreds of tweets about the exact same thing, and he feels so unoriginal now. Whereas before he felt like he had no clue of how deep people were into the fandom.
That's how I feel when I listen to you guys, because I'll watch the show and I'm like, oh, this and oh, that. And I listen to your podcast like the next day or whatever. And I'm like, yes, they get me. They totally get me. You guys are on point with everything. I love it. So a final theory. Who do you guys think will sit on the Iron Throne? And does it even matter?
I don't think anyone. I think it's gone. I don't think it matters. And I don't think anyone will be there.
Yeah, I think there won't be an Iron Throne. If there is one, it will definitely be Hot Pie.
That is awesome. I love Hot Pie.
He'll throw some spatulas.
That's awesome.
You know nothing, John Doe.
I love Hot Pie.
Yeah. I'm definitely on team no Iron Throne at the end, but if it's not the case, Dany's the one who wants it. John doesn't want it.
Does she?
So,
No.
Yeah,
She's
she wants it
breaking
bad.
the wheel.
She's
Breaking the wheel.
Yeah.
I just don't think she'll live to the end of the series myself.
Entirely possible. Yeah.
I think the breaking the wheel thing is a plot
It'll
hole.
be Gendry or something. I don't know.
Gendry.
Yay,
Yeah.
drink. Everyone drink. We said Gendry. You got to take a drink.
That's our drinking game on this show.
Really?
And his arms
Really
are
drinks
huge
some
now,
wine.
right?
Yes, they should be gigantic. But yeah, I don't think Danny. I remember the whole breaking of the wheel conversation. She's like, "I'm gonna break the wheel," and I'm like, "Okay." And then we see her with Jon Snow, and she's like, "I was born to rule the Seven Kingdoms," and I'm like, "Wait a second."
You were born fifth in line.
Yes, yeah, and something else. Like, wait a minute, that doesn't seem right. There's something wrong here.
You sound like your brother.
Yeah, you sound nuts at the
Yeah.
moment. Didn't you see my dragons? Oh, did you see them? They're flying all over. Oh, did you happen to notice the big dragons that we have right outside and all of the Dothraki? Oh, you didn't notice that? Oh well,
They're hard to miss.
yeah. Yeah, she was a little bit nasty in that scene, but I think it played out definitely better than all the fans wanted, and that made it more exciting for me because everyone's like, "Oh, they're gonna kiss, and John's gonna touch a dragon, and he's gonna jump on a dragon. He's gonna be the third head." And I'm thinking to myself, no, because that would be too sweet. It's got to be tough. It's got to be raw. This is Game of Thrones. This isn't Once Upon a Time. This is raw and visceral.
Yeah.
And like you said with the acting as well, this was a new type of scenes for both Kit Harington and Emilia Clarke. Daenerys and Jon Snow were behaving in ways that they hadn't had cause to do before. Like Jon is actually asking for things, and he's frustrated over his inability to convince anyone that the Night King is real, and he's despairing of that because he realizes that it is crazy. And Daenerys is having to, back down. She's not getting what she wants, and she's encountered a guy who she respects, unlike all these other leaders she's run into in her life that are just ambitious and power mad. Jon actually cares about his people, and that kind of, she's like, hey, actually, this guy is pretty good. So they're both kind of on their heels a bit because this is a new situation for them.
I'm going to ask a question here. What are you guys going to do at the end of the Game of Thrones or at the end of the books? Do you have a plan for the History of Westeros? Are you going to continue to record, or are you going to morph and do other things?
I'm honestly not worried about it. Well, we have to get to the end of the books first before that. But let's say we get to the end of the books, George is still kicking and writing, then he's just going to write more stuff in the world. So there's that. The books took we're however many years past Feast and Dance and all these books came out, and we're still analyzing them and realizing new things. So I think it'll still continue. But even if we aren't getting new material in the books after A Song of Ice and Fire continues for a while, we're 100% going to have these successor spin-off shows. So I feel like it's just going to be like how Star Wars is now, where we're just the rest of our lives is this. We have it. And if we want to leave the fandom, we can. But I feel like there will be Game of Thrones content forever.
Yeah, and if
I don't know.
And if that doesn't happen, it'll be kind of clear well before it's over,
Yeah.
because the show being over is not that long away, I guess. They're skipping a year, but then there's this, like you said, then there's the spin-offs, and as long as those are even remotely successful, and as long as there's more books, we're talking a long time from now before everything's finished. So that's pretty far ahead to plan.
That's true.
So we'll see. We'll kind of roll with the punches, and hopefully this fandom keeps growing. And like she says, that might be it. It might just be what we do for
it might
see the future.
It might be even bigger for us as podcasters. I mean, I know you guys do the other show, and here at my studio, we used to do 4 or 5 shows, which we're talking about doing again. But right now, the focus has been on Thrones because the fans are just absolutely amazing. Game of Thrones is the fantasy. It is just as epic as Star Wars, but it's not sci-fi. It's the fantasy version. I really like it, and some people would argue that it's Lord of the Rings, but I don't think so. I don't think Lord of the Rings comes close. A close second, in my opinion, would be Wheel of Time, which leads into my next question. You mentioned you have listened or read the Wheel of Time series, which I absolutely love. What other series of books or other fantasy are you guys into?
Let's see. I'll name a fantasy series or a fantasy author, and I'll name a sci-fi one. For fantasy, I really like Brandon Sanderson. It's very different from A Song of Ice and Fire because it's a little more sterile in that he's a Mormon. He doesn't swear. He doesn't have sex. So there's a lot of that stuff, but that just frees him up to do a lot of other things, I think. And he doesn't have sex in this book. But anyways, but he's very prolific. So he's written a huge. Okay, Aziz. He's written a lot of books, and they're all, for the majority of them, they're all set in the same world that he calls it the Cosmere. So one series has characters that cross over to another series that's on another planet with another magic system entirely, and eventually they're going to cross over and be more sci-fi. It's fascinating. He's a very interesting author, and the Stormlight Archive series that he's written is maybe his magnum opus of it all, and that one has illustrations all throughout it. Both books, which is huge for high fantasy,
That's awesome.
have illustrations. So, like, how can you picture what a chasm fiend sounds like? What is that? Like some
Instead
weird
of like
creature?
multi-paragraph description, you actually get an image.
With like one of the characters, this female character, is an artist, and so she draws creatures and stuff like that. It's a really cool mechanism. I really think it's one of my favorite things in any book I've read. So it's a book series, and now it's a TV series. The authors are involved in the writer's room, modifying it, and so they're basically adapting all of the books, the whole series, not one book by one book. And it's really diverse. It's really forward-thinking. I mean, it's sci-fi, and they do really unique things. I could go on and on about it, but one little thing is that a lot of sci-fi, I think, is really also sterilized, and, you know, they don't have people doing things for entertainment. They don't have people, you know, going dancing and going out to a club. Like, that's a thing that we do. We've done that since as long as humanity has existed.
Mhm.
We've wanted to listen to music and dance and have fun sometimes. But really, you think about most sci-fi, and there's very little of that. And so The Expanse has scenes where the characters go out to a club and get drunk and have fun and dance and stuff like that. There's a lot of other things I can say about it.
And
But I'll let you.
rude and
Gold star for you, Ashaya. My husband's a big Sanderson fan, and he
Oh,
said
cool.
loves Sanderson. So yeah, gold star for you.
I'm
He's a
writing-
big book nerd in the family.
I'm writing
He
this
loves
down
sci-fi
'cause
fantasy
that
stuff.
sounds like a phenomenal series. I'm definitely going to have to. I think it might be in my wish list on Audible.
Oh, wow.
I also will second that. The Sanderson books are really good. Mistborn also is very solid.
Yeah,
but
he's got a lot of books.
Yeah, that's one of his other series. I would say one that I'm fond of that's on the mind recently is the Last Kingdom series. That's also been made a TV show. There's
Not fantasy or sci-fi or
seasons-
anything.
right, it's historical
but
fiction.
historical, which is close to Game of Thrones in that sense.
Yeah, and George R. R. Martin says that the author Bernard Cornwell is the best at writing medieval battles. And that's not the only reason I like it, but that is something I like, the authenticity, or the supposed authenticity. Because no one really knows what it was like to be in a shield wall in the 8th century, but, you know, he certainly seems to do a good job.
Yeah. But that's a show that's got 2 seasons out and many books out and George R. R. Martin recommends.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of historical fiction in general. That's my main probably genre that I like to read. And so when I liked more fantasy when I was younger, and when, you know, Song of Ice and Fire came along, that was sort of, it captured that same thing because George R. R. Martin put so much history in Song of Ice and Fire, so it has that sort of historical element to it. I would also recommend. I'm drawing a blank. I had it, now it's gone.
That happens to me all the time.
It's on the ceiling somewhere. That's why I'm looking
It
for
happens to me like in the middle of a podcast. I'll be like, hey, that was a really awesome scene with, what was the guy's name? Oh my God, somebody help me, I can't remember. It happens every single episode. And then I get hate mail and I'm like,
I would recommend. I thought of it. It's the book Hyperion, which was made. There's actually four books in the series, but the first book is really the standout, and it's apparently been optioned.
Conan Hyperion, or is that Hyperion? Am I thinking of the wrong thing?
Hyperion by Dan Simmons.
Oh, okay. I'm writing this down.
Yeah, it's quite good. It's a very moving tale with a bunch of different characters kind of coming together and giving their individual stories, and each of these stories is a kind of a sci-fi story in and of itself, and then the way it all comes together is really nice too. So yeah, I highly recommend that. And if I can throw one more out there, the Sun and Splendor. That's by what's her name? Whoa, we have a cat doing acrobatics right off camera here. That's by Sharon K. Penman, and it is a telling of the Wars of the Roses. And because the Wars of the Roses are something that George R. R. Martin borrowed from, reading historical fiction from that period is very interesting because you see just how similar a lot of the characters were. Edward IV is a lot like Robert Baratheon. Richard the Third is a lot like Ned Stark combined with Stannis Baratheon. And there's a Cersei, there's a Joffrey, basically. There's so many characters that you would recognize. So
Aziz, you and our very own Jonathan Stoma Starklover would definitely get along in that respect. John loves that kind of stuff. He is so into that.
Yes, he's our history buff for sure. So I've got a couple of questions about the show that I've picked out from some people in the chat, and we just want to, we're going to be wrapping up here soon, everybody, just to let you know, but we're going to take a couple questions. So if you want to get your question in, put it in right now. And we've got a few right here. Lori Goddard says, what did Olenna mean when she asked Jaime, why did your father take Highgarden when the mines are dry? Neither offered an answer, and it's bugged me. Just curious.
I mean, I think she was just pointing to the fact that, like, if this is such an obvious strategy that you're doing, and Tywin was very ruthless, why wouldn't he have done that? And I think there's a number of reasons why Tywin wouldn't have done it. I think it goes against some pride that he might have, and it's a little weirdly underhanded. But I think it's perfectly in line with Cersei doing it, especially when they're actually in rebellion right now. But I mean, I could see Tywin doing something like that, but I think his pride is a little stronger than Cersei's in Casterly Rock.
Yeah, the circumstances are a lot different too. They're not, in this case, Highgarden was rebelling. Tywin was never faced with a direct rebellion by the Tyrells. In other words, he didn't have just cause. Cersei and Jaime had, a reason they could declare to the realm, like, these people are traitors, and it's very clear why, and people will buy that reason. Tywin would have had to make something up. And maybe that's not, he's willing to do dirty things, but maybe not that particular dirty thing. Maybe if he saw the opportunity, but I don't think the opportunity was there.
Right. So our very own Andrea wanted me to ask you guys this question. So Bravos was formed by former slaves. And now in season 7, the Iron Bank was investing in the slave trade, and now they want to find something new to invest in. What are your thoughts on that Iron Bank slave trade investment thing?
I'll go first because I have the more negative reaction, and Aziz can wrap it up with his more positive reaction to it, which is that I hate that they did that personally, especially because I'm thinking about, like, the spin-off successor shows and if that'll have ramifications for those, if that will just be a set thing. My thoughts on it, though, are that the Iron Bank can be heavily invested in the slave trade, and the people of Bravos can maybe not be fully aware of that, or be aware of it and be very unhappy about that, and that could be a point of conflict. So I think that the Bravosi people can still be really against slaves, while the Iron Bank can be a little more corrupt, and that doesn't ruin Bravos for me, but I still wasn't super happy about it.
I think it's important to note that the Iron Banker didn't actually confirm that they were. Cersei kind of hinted at it, and he gave an evasive answer. He didn't actually confirm that they were involved in the slave trade. And I think maybe it's more likely that, we're talking about a global economy, and a couple of nations, taking a big economic downturn is going to impact them, whether it's direct or not. They're bankers. They're a huge banking cartel that has their fingers in everything. So even if they're not directly invested in the slave trade, it's going to hurt them. And of course they're not going to. And of course they're going to be evasive, because Cersei was trying to pin him down and be like, this is why you want to be with us. And he doesn't want to just agree with her, because that changes the scope of their negotiations. They're talking about money and percentages of how much they're going to charge in usury and all that. So he's not going to give up any. He's not going to say, "Oh yeah, you're right about that. That was really hurting us." So he's trying to get the best deal he can get. So he's going to be non-committal, but he's also not going to say no, because it's just not believable that they would have nothing at all to do with an economic situation that's so vast and complex like that. So. Yeah,
I think this will be the last question. Did Tyrion know the Casterly Rock mines were dry?
And that was a good question. We got in one of ours too, and we were thinking about it. And I don't think no, he didn't. I don't think he did.
Yeah, I don't think so.
We had someone else raise the like a counterpoint, a continuation question, which is Varys knows about everything that goes on in the Red Keep, and Tywin told Cersei in the Red Keep. So does Varys know? Did Varys know? I would guess no, based on what they did, but maybe I don't know.
Didn't hear that particular conversation, but Cersei. Because if you remember when Tywin breaks that news to Cersei is shocked, and
right.
So it doesn't seem that Tyrion probably wouldn't have known either. If Cersei didn't know, I don't know why Tyrion would. I mean, maybe he did, but there's no reason to think he did.
Is that going to be the same in the book, do you think?
No, George has been pretty clear that the Casterly Rock mines are not empty in the books, and
yeah.
I thought that was an interesting change.
That'll happen anytime soon. Yeah.
So that won't be a Lannister weakness then.
Right.
They'll have plenty of other weaknesses because book Cersei is nowhere near as formidable as show Cersei, nor is
that is so true.
Show Qyburn and all her team is much more formidable in the show.
Yes.
Which isn't a bad thing. It's just an observation.
Yeah, it's just
Show
different.
Qyburn is useful.
Show Qyburn's amazing. Book Qyburn is creepy and has his uses, but he's not her hand of the king, running like all these different operations.
I agree.
Dragon defense, torture, science,
Little
master
birds.
of whispers. He does everything in the show. He's pretty amazing.
He's like the Swiss Army knife of the small council. Very small council.
True.
I'm gonna follow up with some final goodbye questions. There's just some fun stuff that we like to ask everybody that comes into any one of our shows on our network.
Cool.
So we'll start with Ashaya. How about Android or Apple?
Android all the way. I'm super down on Apple, and over a period of years, I wore Aziz down, and he has an Android phone right now. He started with an Apple phone, and he has Android now. So I don't think he ever felt like strongly about Apple, but I felt strongly enough about Android that yeah.
Yeah, so I can say I've used both extensively, and I do prefer my Android phone. I think it's a little easier to get to navigate, and mostly it's better. Yeah. And one of the main reasons I switched, to be honest, though, is because I dropped my my iPhone in the water twice, and it survived the first time and not the second time. And so the modern Android was better, more water resistant. So I was like, well, that's probably what I should go with.
Amphibious phones. Nice.
But it worked out for other reasons, too.
Okay, so mental note, do not invite them to It's Apple Time podcast. Moving to the next question, which you guys pretty much answered. Do you enjoy sci-fi and fantasy as well? I would say that's a solid yes on both fronts.
Yeah. Do you think he likes fantasy or sci-fi more?
I think I'd lean slightly towards fantasy, but I like them both so much that if the story's good, I'm in.
Yeah, I think there's more fantasy that I am like really passionate about than there is sci-fi, but sci-fi as a whole, as an average, is a lot more forward-thinking than fantasy. I mean, it just goes without saying that they're just going to be pioneering a lot of things. So I appreciate sci-fi more as a genre, I think, whereas fantasy can sometimes be, I don't know, a little dated.
Yeah. I think the best of either is just so good that it doesn't even matter, but the worst fantasy is probably the worst.
Worse than the worst sci-fi. I think I agree. Anyway.
But no, there's no reason for us to read any of the worst fantasy or the worst sci-fi. So that's
good point. All right, if you had to choose a universe to live in, would it be Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars for me.
I enjoy Star Wars more, but I would absolutely prefer to live in Star Trek. It's way more peaceful.
Yes. See, am I right?
It has more entertainment and.
I'm going to choose the one that actually I would be able to appreciate the kind of things they have there. I wouldn't appreciate Star Trek. I don't know. They have more fun in Star Wars. You see them going to the cantinas. In this new one, we're going to see
there's the holodecks in Star Trek.
Yeah, and nobody has to worry about money. Everybody can have a good time.
They got rid of alcohol, though, and
all the ships have carpeting. Where in Star Wars, you got to be real lucky to get in a ship with carpeting.
Far away from like any Starkiller base, Death Star type weird building projects. I'll just go to the edges of the galaxy.
Okay, yeah, maybe. I mean, if you're going to be in Star Wars, I should go with you.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Okay, DC or Marvel?
I would go Marvel.
I'd go Marvel, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. I really love Guardians of the Galaxy in particular. For me, Marvel's going to have Captain Marvel, so they're going to have a female lead coming up that I'm excited about. I don't know, they just have a little more humor in their stuff. I like funny things.
I've really fallen off on my comic book stuff in general, but when I was younger, most of the titles that I collected were Marvel, so it's a pretty easy choice, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
I
My
definitely.
The Spider-Man, so that's Marvel.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I liked X-Men. And,
Yeah.
I definitely recommend the Wonder Woman movie. It was really good.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, it was really good. And you guys, did you have any time to play video games? We kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. Do you do any games on your phone? Do you have a Nintendo or a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox?
Yeah, we have a Wii U, a Nintendo Wii U, so I have like the new Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild game.
It's awesome.
We get down on Mario Kart and different Mario games. And then we have our PC gaming. Aziz plays some different games than I do, but we have some crossover with the Game of Thrones mods, but you play some other games.
I like the Game of Thrones mods a lot, Mountain Blade Warband and Crusader Kings 2, like you said, and I also I'm a lifelong fan of the game Blood Bowl from high school all the way till now.
It's true fantasy football, like with trolls and goblins and I don't know.
That's
weird
cool.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's been a Games Workshop game that's existed for decades, and I played it back when it was tabletop only, and now it's in its third iteration of a computer game, and it's really well made. So that's really fun for me to have a game that used to only be board game, and now I can play online. And I like baseball simulators too, like the really detailed management. Oh, and I love Civilization series.
Civilization is awesome, right?
I played Civ 1 back in the day and was hooked on that.
That was all it took. And then,
that was all it took.
Years later, and we're still playing Civilization.
So many hours have gone into this
Civilization.
Oh,
that's awesome. I think we kind of talked about other books you like. We talked about that in a lot of good detail. If you had to pick one other show that you really like right now, what would it be? That's a tough one, right? Because there's a lot of good shows right now.
I'll just say we're really into comedy shows in general, but I'm going to name a drama. One, I'm cheating because I can just point at my shirt and say there's Better Call Saul as like my other favorite show. But coming up in October is Mr. Robot, which is my other favorite show that's airing, my number 1 and number 2 dramas of each year. But we watch a lot of TV.
It's true. I like a lot of period pieces. I like anything that's got a lot of immersion, so I like older stuff. I would say Black Sails if it hadn't ended. It's done, but that's one of my favorite shows of all time. So I'll go with another period piece that's active still that I like and still have hopes for, even though it's made a lot of major changes, and that's Vikings.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. I'm a huge fan of Vikings. And I keep getting rave reviews from family members who are like, oh my gosh, have you seen this show? And I'm like, yeah, I've been watching it for years. Where have you been? It's
got to get Trin on Fandom Media when you guys cover Vikings as a guest.
That's a good idea. Yeah, we're going to talk season 5 when that rolls around in November.
Yes.
So
I'm a big fan of Lagatha.
Cool. Yeah, we'll have some team up opportunities then. Me and Sean cover. So
I got too much Lagatha.
I'll give the female warrior perspective.
Oh,
excellent. Yeah, they don't miss out on that in the show.
I got to turn the Lagatha off and actually watch the show. Everyone keeps saying watch it, and it's right there on Hulu, and I'm ready to watch it. But then Preacher came on,
because it says it's season 5 is about to start, but season 4 is double season. So
it's like 2 seasons in like cut it in half or something.
I better get caught up.
Yeah, there were 20 episodes. It was usually a 10-episode season.
Right.
And 20 last year. So
by the way, I see someone in the chat, John Young, who says there's a new pirate show called Treasure Island coming eventually on Stars.
What?
Oh, cool.
You got to look that up, Aziz.
Thanks, John. I'm excited now. I did not heard that. Black Sails was a prequel to Treasure Island, so they might just be continuing on.
Yeah.
It's the same network. Stars did Black
I wonder
Sails.
if it's the same people behind it. I feel like if it was, you would have known by now.
Got to have some of the same people involved, the same network and ships and the same production. Like they won a lot of awards, especially for sound. So I could see that. Yeah, ambient sound was amazing, like all the ships creaking and the waves and everything. They did such a fantastic job of that. So that's very exciting. All right.
I'll talk about a fantastic job. You guys have done a fantastic job being on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you both here. I mean, we have to do this again soon. You guys are awesome.
Yeah.
That was an excellent segue right there.
Yes. I have practice.
And it was really fun talking. It's obviously fun to get asked questions and have a different sort of live stream type of thing than we normally do, a little more relaxed. So yeah, we'd love to do it again. Hopefully you guys can get Sean on. We could have a solo show with him.
Well, I'm hearing a lot of nerd connection here in our studio is called Total Nerd Takeover Studios. So I'm definitely going to have you guys maybe come on other shows if you're available with other nerd-related stuff, because you guys are awesome.
After season is over, we're way more free than we are for the next few weeks.
We feel you.
At the end of the season, do you guys keep recording or do you guys go on a break? at the end of season 7? Will you go on a break, or do you do?
We'll keep going. We don't have like heavy Game of Thrones coverage during that time period. We usually release a couple of episodes on the show during the off season, just some roundtable speculation type things when there's new material released. But we'll be back to working on heavily scripted book episodes.
Yeah, we have, luckily for us, the week after Game of Thrones ends is DragonCon. We talked about DragonCon, and that's earlier, I think before we went live. And that's a convention here in Atlanta that we've gone to a lot because it's here in Atlanta, and it's the week actual after Game of Thrones ends. So that'll be we'll be able to kind of wind down with that. That'll be like it'll be fun to kick back and not do a lot of editing.
Yeah, and then we'll have some TV shows starting for the September season that we have to decide what we're going to cover for Fandom Media, because there's so many shows that are airing, and we realize we just can't cover that many at one time period. So we were like, we want to cover Broad City, but then there's also going to be Nathan For You coming out, Mr. Robot coming back. So we'll have to decide once Game of Thrones is over how much time we have to cover other TV shows.
Yeah, and as far as our History of Westeros episodes, we're going to have a Blackfish episode. We've got some of our panels from Con of Thrones that we're editing to put up. The first one's going to be the Lovecraftian influences of A Song of Ice and Fire. So the H.P. Lovecraft, a panel that I did with Poor Quentin, a.k.a.
Oh, wow. I am really sad I missed that because I'm a big fan of H.P. Lovecraft.
You won't have to miss it anymore because Aziz has been working on the editing, on when he can, because there's a lot of Game of Thrones podcast editing to be doing. But
nice.
And then we're going to do an episode on the Crypts of Winterfell, and also an episode on Bloodraven, which wraps up our Blackfire series, and a chapter review of the North Remembers chapter. So we got
we have some A Song of Ice and Fire theory round tables planned, because that was our Patreon goal, and we hit it. So we have to start
That's awesome.
planning.
Lots to do, yeah.
That's awesome. I wish you guys all the success. You have a great show. You guys have great attitudes. You're just really good people, and God bless you. I love all nerds, so you guys are okay in my book, and you're
cool
always
cat.
welcome in my studio anytime you want. You're always welcome. Just knock on the door and say, "Hey, we're here. Let's have a party," and we will.
No.
And if you want to take the
just too chill. Sorry, he just had to do this because he's like crazy chill.
if you want to take the party outside of BTIT, where could people find all of the work you guys do? Give us a really good plug, because I really want our audience to go over and check out everything you guys do. It's been such a pleasure having you guys.
You can find us at historyofwesteros.com. We're at Twitter and Facebook under History of Westeros as well. It's all linked on the website. And for our other podcast, you can find that at fandommedia.reviews. And on each of those websites are the social media links and YouTube channels and stuff like that.
That's right. YouTube and iTunes and Facebook and SoundCloud, and we try to be just about everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like us. Try to be everywhere you can be. Trin, my Dovahkiin, thank you so much. We did it.
Yes.
We had a great show. we did it.
Yes. You'll have to excuse me. I'm in the middle of a raid right now because we went over 8 o'clock. I'm totally playing a video game while trying to podcast.
See how talented she is?
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Get him.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. You guys, I listen to probably a dozen different podcasts of Game of Thrones because I just can't get enough. Obviously, we do 2 episodes a week in our peak season here, but you guys are by far my favorite of all of the Game of Thrones podcasts, outside of my own, of course. But but you guys
We're
are
real
awesome.
lucky that we get to have Radio Westeros on for our book to show episodes too.
Yeah, I listen to you. You guys are on Game of Owns. You're with Radio Westeros. Like, you guys are everywhere. And
Pod of Thrones is really great for allowing some networking. Like, obviously, Radio Westeros was just on Game of Owns' Sunday night episode, and so that was great. I was on there. We're gonna have Sean get on Game of Owns.
Nice.
It's been really great to put faces to names and voices when we met. I mean, we met at Ice and Fire Con for that. And so it's just been really great. The community, to me, feels even tighter than ever after that con.
I know, right?
Really does.
Yeah, everybody's really cool. Like, really cool.
I already told my wife I'm going next year. We're doing it. This year I couldn't because we were selling our house and buying a new house. And I really, I got to go next year.
Where are you based out of?
I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm in Warminster, Pennsylvania. I sold my house and my old little studio in Warminster, and I'm moving to a new place and building a new studio in Warminster. So it's like I literally moved 5 minutes from one house to the other, but I needed the space. I really did. So Pennsylvania is a nice place to live.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, you got to make it out to Ice and Fire Con too. Then in Ohio, it's not quite as close to you this next year, but hopefully you guys can.
I got
be
plans.
represented there.
John,
Trin's Facebook Live interviews there were awesome. They were so cool.
Yeah, she did a good job.
That was fun. That was our first.
Yeah, that was totally off the cuff. Are you guys going to be going to the next
Yeah,
one?
we'll definitely be at Ice and Fire Con.
yeah.
We'll be.
I will definitely be at that too.
Yeah.
General John's going to go too,
To
Trent.
you about Worldcon in San Jose, California.
Yeah, we're going to look
next
into
year.
that.
Because that's for George R. R. Martin, his next real good appearances, and
Yes.
so that until the book comes out, we're trying to get everyone we can, and so yeah, that'll be fun.
Mhm.
I looked at the webpage and I was like, oh my God, it's in Finland, but that's in 2019.
Yeah. That's this next year. That's
Yeah.
No way.
2017 actually. That's this year is Helsinki, and then
Okay,
2018
yeah.
next year. They plan it so far in advance because
San
it's
Jose.
constantly change the locations.
Got it.
But San Jose won the bid for next year, so that's very cool that there's one close. Because Helsinki is a little far,
Mhm.
just a bit.
Just a bit.
That's awesome. Well, we definitely have to get connected. John's going to come down from Canada. He's going to stay with me for that, and then we're going to drive to Ohio. We're not missing it this year.
Cool.
We're
Oh,
going to
so
make
you
it
guys
happen.
have inside information on the next Con of Thrones because I keep hearing it might be overseas.
No, I really
No.
don't think it'll be overseas. We really all we know
Super
is that
unlikely.
it's very unlikely for it to ever be overseas. I think it's
Okay.
likely for it to be at another Gaylord type hotel, whether it's
That
the
place?
one. But there's
That
other
is
Gaylord
awesome.
hotels, that are in other
Okay.
locations. Like there's Colorado, there's Florida, there's a bunch of other ones. I think that they probably want to keep that vibe, but it's pretty in flux right now. I know that for sure. So yeah, I can't say anything concrete other than that. I'm sure that there'll be another one, and it'll be in the U.S.
Yeah, it was successful, so it'll definitely happen. But yeah, overseas is really unlikely because so much of the audience is over here.
Yeah, I think they maybe would want to do that eventually and expand, but their team is mostly not there. It would be a thing for in the future for them to do. So yeah, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I thought their venue was absolutely perfect. And the fact that it was in Nashville was very centrally located. So all of the fans from all over, the United States, Canada, could come. And it was, you didn't have to fly all the way across the country. You kind of meet in the middle. I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot.
All right, so I want to thank everybody for, of course, our guest hosts. I'd like to thank Trin. You guys have all been phenomenal. And, of course, the hashtag BTIT Army that is joining us here live and even after the fact. We love you guys so much. It's all about community. We really want to stress that out. And if you want to join, you want to be more connected to us here at Behind the Iron Throne, it's really easy to do. All the links will either be in the show notes, the description of this podcast, or in the description of this video, depending on where you're checking it out, whether it's our YouTube channel, on one of the podcast apps that you use, because we're all over with our podcast as well. But I make it really simple for you. All you have to ever remember is BehindTheIronThrone.com. Hashtag BTIT, baby. Oh, yeah. Woo!